crew to save the day.
Welcome to Mighty House. This is a show for people with problems, home improvement problems, that is, and for people who want common sense guidance on how to build green and live a more sustainable lifestyle. Send an email. The Mighty House crew is on the job. This is Mighty House.
Hey, do you ever want to figure out how to build stairs? Not quite sure.
Hey,
Rise,
back.
run. What'd you say? We're back?
Yeah, we're back.
2024, we're back. All right. Hey, you ever want to figure out how to do stairs? How do you cut them? How do you do the rise, the run? What's all that stuff mean? Rick's going to show us exactly how to build a set of stairs, and we're going to do some winders and some spiral stuff. So stay tuned because we're going to get into that. But before we go there, let's dingle on the bell, hit that subscribe button, and of course you can always leave a comment below because we like getting your comments and answering questions and doing all that fun stuff too. So let's get into it. Stairs. I'm going to do the share on here, and let's share the screen.
Okay.
And
So
share. There we go.
also, just in case you're in some other part of the country, I'm in Florida.
Okay.
These are the Florida building codes, residential version 2020.
In a
Here's-
nutshell, though, this is going to be the basics of how to get it set up and how to figure it out.
But let's explain what all the points are.
Exactly.
So when we talk about the maximum rise or total rise, that's all the way out there on the right side of that stair.
Yep.
It says total rise.
And
So the code says you can't go over 151 inches,
what?
which is 12'7" rise. So from one floor to the next, 12'7", that's your max in a single run of stairs. So that's why you'll see, turn backs and things like that.
Or a landing, yeah.
A landing, right. So that's why, and that would equate to about 20 risers at 7.5 inches. So you can imagine walking up 20 steps every day, up, down, up, down. It could be tiring going up 20 steps.
Yeah, that's your Stairmaster workout. And again,
Yes, you just go up and down your stairs a few times.
that's from finished floor to finished floor on both levels.
Correct.
That's your total rise. Not
And I
run.
like the way they've got that shown with the wood floor at the top.
Yep.
They got the hash lines showing you. Yeah. We're talking all the way to the finished floor there.
Right.
Okay, so your maximum riser height, so your riser is over there. So that's your unit rise, and that your max is 7 3/4 inches. Most of the time we try to stay to 7.5.
Right.
Used to be 8 inches, 8 1/4 inches. So when you get in some old houses and you feel awkward walking up them stairs, it's because the risers are much taller.
Right.
So we're locked in at 7 3/4 inch rise.
Yeah.
And
I
then-
always start at 7.5 when I'm cutting them. I'll use 7.5 as a starting point and then adjust up or down from there.
Yeah, you might have to go a 1/16 one way or the other to get the even number.
Correct.
Because that's one of the strange things is that the code actually says that your riser height cannot vary more than 3/8 of an inch from one riser to another.
But even
So-
that's too much because you're going to notice that.
Yeah, but I mean, 3/8 is quite a bit, but if they didn't have some number in there, God knows what people would do. So then we talk about the tread depth.
And
So
then,
the tread depth is actually up there. Yeah, you've got your tread. And then you also have the nose hanging over. So your minimum tread depth is 10 inches. And again, we usually go 11.5 or 11 1/4 because that's what a 2x12 is, right? So it's easier to get material. If you're buying oak stair treads, they're usually 12-inch or 11.5 inches, I should say. And you're good with those.
right.
So then the next number you got to look at is your tread projection, which if you look where the tread is sticking past the riser, okay, that projection, so from the tip of that tread to the face of that riser, should be a minimum of 3/4 of an inch and maximum 1 1/4 inch. So usually I try to do a 1 inch. A 1 inch nose. The biggest reason it keeps the math easy, right?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. So if I have an 11.5 inch tread and I want a 1 inch nosing, then I know that my tread has to be cut at 10.5. That would be my unit run.
Right.
Then that way you put your riser on, you put your tread there, and everything pushes out to 11.5 with a 1-inch nosing. So that's basically how you figure out your stair with a framing square. Once you come up with those two numbers, you take your framing square and you're just going to set it so that you're 7.5 inches to the top and 10 inches or 10.5 inches along the bottom. You put your little brass holders on there and you just slide down marking the 2x12, and that's how you lay out a riser. It's actually quite simple once you figure out the two numbers.
Right.
Then it becomes a piece of cake. Then all you have to watch is where you have to cut it at the bottom, because your floor is different, right? So your first and last risers are adjusted slightly because your material. So the upper on this particular example shouldn't much, but your bottom might, depending on what's, the floor difference, flooring versus tread. So
Right.
that's kind of, and then the headroom.
Yeah.
So obviously this isn't to scale, but that headroom has to be a minimum of 6'8".
With
So
a regular staircase.
yeah, so if you're measuring along that line, like they show from nose to nose of the treads, you go up plumb line or straight up 6'8", which then dictates your well opening.
Which is here.
Yeah. So you have to move that left or right or whatever. You can bring it in more, you know what I mean? Or you've got to push it out more, but you want to make sure that at least 6'8". So that's your basic stairs by code. Now let's go to winders. So we don't want to run up 20 stairs, or we don't have enough room. Maybe I need 13 and I want to do, one winder somewhere in there. So there's your winder. And see, now this picture is actually interesting because this is an old set of stairs.
Yeah.
So on your winder, your treads can't be less than 6 inches at any given point. And I'll guarantee you that's only 3.5 inches right there.
Yeah, or less. This guy comes right to the point there. They're pretty close.
Right. So that's, if you're looking at a house and it's an older home, which I'm sure this is, because that doesn't meet code, nor does the handrail, and we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
But you can't be less than 6 inches at any point. And that's really the only real thing with a winder, is that you have to bring that out further now.
Let me see. I've got the second winder picture. Let me see what we've got there.
Well, that was a more current one, if I remember, because that one actually showed a good 6 inch. See
Yep.
there?
Yep, you've got it.
So I'm assuming that's 6 inches on that riser, right there. So that's what they're saying, minimum 6 inches. So that's all you need to do to add a winder. You probably can't put 2 winders in a landing anymore for that reason. You just don't have the room for the 6 inches. It throws everything off. So that brings you then to the last set of stairs, the spirals. So as a rule, we don't typically use spirals as a primary means of egress. In other words, if you have a large house with a second floor, you can have these spirals in, say, your great room going up to your loft, which might be part of the whole second floor, but it cannot be your only means of egress in case of a fire. Spiral stairs are not the safest way to panic out of a house.
No, they're not.
So they changed a little, because now they said the minimum tread width is 6 3/4. So when you look right at that pole, that's got to be a minimum of 6 3/4. So you might have a 5-inch pole there with a 1-inch band going all the way around, and that gets you 6 3/4. Back in the day, they used to just nail these things together, with a stick up the middle and call it done.
Yep.
The risers can be taller on there. Remember, on the other stairs, we couldn't go over 7 3/4, but here you can actually have risers up to 9 3/4, which is really high. But again, if you're trying to go spiral, you can only have so many steps, which also leads you into the second part, where that your headroom is also decreased. It's legal to be 6'6".
And that's from this step to right in these areas, hitting this.
Exactly. It's where you're going to hit your head on the stair above you. So if they're a little tighter, so then by going into 6 3 or the 9 3/4, you get a little more headroom.
Right.
As far as handrails go, not much to say other than any set of stairs that has 4 or more risers must have a handrail. if you do have handrails like this one, we were saying this is an old picture, this handrail would not be legal anymore because it's not continuous. You're not supposed to have to lift your hand off the handrail to go to the next handrail. So this one, you'd have to lift your hand off the newel. This one was updated. It looks like they have the gooseneck there, so it does not look like it's interrupted. And then I think the better picture is really just your spiral where you can see it's continuous all the way down, right?
Yeah. So if you look here, though, here's the original handrail, but because it hits this post, it's not legal. That's why they had to add this.
Right. And you see the return back to the newel post because you can't have the opened end because it could catch your shirt, your cuff, or your jacket. So yeah, a lot of things changed in the stairs in the last, say, 15 years. They're kind of weird.
Right. And
then the height, yeah. So, and then your balusters cannot be, remember the 4-inch sphere rule. So when you set balusters, they got to be less than 4 inches between them, which those look like they are.
Yep.
That code's been around for a while. And then people always ask about handrail height. So we typically set them at 36 inches, but the nice thing is it's 34 to 38 inches. So if you set the bottom at 34, you'd be somewhere in there. You know what I mean? They're talking to the top of it. So, and I didn't get into the whole thing with the diameter and the grip and all that, but you know, a lot of the big old handrails aren't legal anymore. They can't be wider than 1.25 inches and you know, they have all these sizing. So, you know, a lot of it's changed now.
Yeah, check with your local codes before you start building. If you're getting,
yeah, but that's your basics there stuff.
Yeah. So your local building department will help you out with it. The International Building Code book also will have stair information in it. So, and just like this other picture, you can't have the standard handrail anymore. You do need this. And that what I can't remember the max. I think it's like, isn't it 2.5 or 2 3/4 the maximum width? And it has
2 1/4, I think it is.
Yeah, so
because you got to be able to grip it.
Correct. You got to be able to wrap your hand around it.
Right.
If you can't, then it doesn't count. Just like doing a 2x6 on edge, you can't do that anymore because there's nothing for your fingers to grab onto. You can slide off of it. So you got to put a finger groove in there.
Groove in it. So right, a little convex kind of thing or concave kind of thing so that you got grip.
Correct. So that there's a lot that goes into it, and I think once you start doing one or two, it starts coming to you, and their stairs are fun. I enjoy building them. So let's do this right here, and we'll just say that keep it square and level.
Until next time.
Until next time. Oh yeah, and dingle on the bell, and hit that subscribe button too.